Hello. In today's practice lab, we will configure the network with VLANs, trunking, inter-VLAN routing, and IPv4 standard access control lists. And as part of these processes, we'll perform basic VLAN configuration tasks, address router, interfaces, and hosts, and implement two access control lists. In today's practice lab, and in order to keep this lab activity as brief as possible, we'll only be configuring some devices. In this topology diagram, I already configured the servers and the internet devices, also the data center portion. I will configure the internet router now, which is this guy here. So enable, configure terminal, host name, internet. Now the interface gig00, the interface connecting the server. This is with the IP address of 192.168.1.1/24 subnet mask, and activate the port with a no shut. Our other interface on serial 000, and this is with the IP address of 10.1.1.2/30 subnet mask 252. And no shut. And I will configure a static route to all networks, and the exit interface would be on the interface of serial 00. So from here, I'll exit IP route to 172.16.0.0/16, and the exit interface of serial 000, which is this exit interface here from the internet router to reach these networks. I summarize them all in 172.16.0.0. Next, I will configure the data center router, the interface facing the internet, this interface here. So first, let's type in enable, configure terminal, the host name of data center. Now the interface of serial 000, the interface facing the internet, this is with the IP address of 10.1.1.1 with a /30 subnet mask, and activate the port with a no shut. Next, I will configure a default route from on this router to any network there on the internet, and the exit interface will be on the serial 000 here. So exit from here, IP route to any network with this subnet mask, and our exit interface will be on the serial 000. Next, I will configure the data center switch here. Enable, configure terminal, host name, data CTR. Now, I will configure two VLANs, VLAN 250 and VLAN 254, and configure interfaces F01 as an access port in VLAN 250, and the other interface of F02 in VLAN 254. So VLAN 250, and we will name this VLAN as web server, as VR, and the other VLAN of 254, and this we will name it DNS. And this DNS server will be the DNS server for all the DNS server here will be the DNS server for all the hosts on this diagram. Next, I will configure the two ports, this port here connected to the web server, and the other port of F02 connecting the DNS server. So back to the switch, exit, interface F01, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, this is in VLAN 250. And the other interface F02, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 254. And this port or this interface of gig 02, we will configure this as a trunk connecting the switch with the data center router. The interface of gig 02, switch port mode trunk. Enter. Next, I will be configuring the data center router and switch 1. And I'll show you how I'll do both. And you can do the same with the switch 1, switch 2, switch 3, and the data center switch. So back to the data center router. Now on the global configuration, I will prevent the router from attempting to resolve unauthorized command line interface entries as domain names. Simply, the command will be no IP domain lookup. And next, I will protect the device configuration from unauthorized access with the encrypted password. In this example, I'll use Cisco as a password. Enable secret Cisco. Next, I will secure the router console and remote access lines with password, once again with Cisco. I'm using Cisco as a password just for to simplify our configuration here. So line console 0 and a password of Cisco. This is for our login, and the all 16 lines for the VTY lines from 0 to 15, the password of Cisco for login. Exit. Next, I will prevent all passwords from being viewed in clear text and device configuration files. Simply from the global configuration service, password encryption. So we have our password now encrypted. I'll do the same on switch 1. And when you download the Paxos tracer files and the walkthrough document, just do the same with switch 2 and switch 3 before you move into the next step. Host name, SW1. Now I will prevent the switch from attempting to resolve unauthorized command line interface entries as domain names. So simply type no IP domain lookup. And next I will protect the device configurations from unauthorized access with the encrypted password Cisco. So we will enable secret password of Cisco on the switch. Next, I will secure the switch's console and remote access lines with the password Cisco. So line console 0, password of Cisco or login, and line V2I, all 16 lines from 0 to 15, the password of Cisco for login. Exit. Next, I will prevent all passwords from being viewed in clear text and device configuration files. So the command goes simply like this: service password encryption. So our password is encrypted now. Next, I will configure VLANs on switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. We have these VLANs here: VLAN 20, 40, 60, and 88. I will configure them on the three switches. So start with switch 1. So we have the VLAN 20, and we will name this users. VLAN 40, we'll name this HR. VLAN 60, this is for our admins. And VLAN 88, and this is our management VLAN. I'll do the same on switch 2. Enable, configure terminal, host name, SW2. Now VLAN 20, We said this is our user's VLAN, VLAN 40. This is for the HR, VLAN 60. This is for our admins, and VLAN 88. This is for management purposes. The same on switch 3. Enable, configure terminal, host name, SW3, VLAN 20. We'll name this users, VLAN 40, name this HR, VLAN 60, and this is for our admins, and VLAN 88, and this is for management department. Now I will assign the switches interfaces on switch 2 and switch 3. Like PC1 here, this is on VLAN 20, PC2 in VLAN 40, PC3 in VLAN 60, and PC4 here on VLAN 20, PC5 in VLAN 40, PC6 in VLAN 60. So on switch 2, we have here the interfaces from 1 to 5 to VLAN 20, from 6 to 10 in VLAN 40, and from 11 to 15, I'll assign this in VLAN 60. So interface range from 1 to 5, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, this is in VLAN 20, as we said, and interfaces range from 6 to 10, switch port mode access, switch port access, these are in VLAN 40, and interface range from 11 to 15, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, these are in VLAN 60. I will do the same on switch 3. We said that our range of interfaces are from 0, 1 to 5, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, these are in VLAN 20, and the range of interfaces are from VLAN 6 to 10, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 40, and from 11 to 15, switch port mode access VLAN 60. Next, I will configure the switches for remote management. I will configure the SBI of the switches, configure the IP address for the management VLAN and the default gateway IP address. I'll configure the SBI so that they will be reachable by devices on other networks after the network has been completely and fully configured. So as you can see here, by switch 1, we have 172.16.88.254. This is on switch 1 for VLAN 88, and the same here, this IP address on switch 2, and this IP address on switch 3. So on switch 1 here, enter VLAN 88, and this is the IP address of 172.16.88.253, and the subnet mask 24 subnet mask, no shut. Surely it's open, but just force of habit. Now the default IP default gateway of 172.16.88.254. Enter. Now I will do switch 2, enter VLAN 88. The IP address of 172.16.88.252/24 subnet mask, exit, and the default gateway of 172.16.88.254, enter. And I will configure switch 3 in the global configuration, Inter-VLAN 88, and the IP address of 172.16.88.251/24 subnet mask, exit from here, and IP default gateway of 172.16.88.254, enter. Next, I will configure VLAN trunking between switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. I will manually configure the BTP VLAN trunking protocol domain name to Academy on switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. So first, let me configure the VTY domain, the BTP domain on switch 1, VTP domain of Academy. And as you can see here, change the BTP domain from null to Academy. And I'll do the same on switch 2, VTP domain of Academy. And the same on switch 3. Now I will manually configure the trunking ports on switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. The switch 1, this interface connecting to the data center router on gig 01, I'll configure this as a trunk. And the same with these two ports, 23 and 24. And on switch 2, port 23 as trunk, and on switch 3 as port F024 as a trunk. So on switch 1, now the interface of gig 01, switch port mode trunk. Now I will configure both ports F023 and F024 connecting switch 2 and switch 3 together as a range, interface range of F023 and 24, switch port mode trunk. Now on switch 2 we have only this port F023, interface F023, switch port mode trunk, and we have on switch 3 port F024. This will configure it also as trunk, interface F024, switch port mode trunk. Next, I will configure inter-VLAN routing. I will use the information showing in the topology diagram here to configure inter-VLAN routing on data center router. I will configure inter-VLAN routing among VLANs 20, 40, 60, and 88 through this interface of gig 00 sub-interfaces. So on the data center router, the password as we configured of Cisco, enable, and Cisco. Configure terminal. First interface gig 00 sub-interface of 20 for VLAN 20, encapsulation.1q for VLAN 20, and this is with the IP address of 172.16.20.254/24 subnet mask, 255.255.255.0, and the interface of gig 00 for VLAN 40 sub-interface encapsulation.1q for VLAN 40, and this is with the IP address of 172.16.40.254/24 subnet mask, and the subinterface of gig 00.60, encapsulation.1q for VLAN 60, and this is with the IP address of 172.16.60.254/24 subnet mask, and the subinterface of gig 00.88, encapsulation.1q for VLAN 88, and this is with the IP address of 172.16.88.254/24 subnet mask. Now I will enable the physical interface of gig 00, no shot. Then I will configure inter-VLAN routing for VLAN 250 and 254 on this side, on gig 00, this interface. So back to data center router. Interface, subinterface of gig 01.250, encapsulation.1q for VLAN 250, and this is with IP address of 172.16. Froze on me, yeah, and with /24 subnet mask 172.16.250.254, enter, and the other subinterface on gig 01.254, encapsulation.1q on VLAN 254, and this is with the IP address of 172.16.254.254 with subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. And finally, I will activate and enable the physical interface on gig 01 with simply type no shut or no shutdown. Okay. I have already configured the host addresses here on, this is PC1. If we go to the desktop, I configured the IP address, the configuration. So let's see. And for all the PCs, we have this DNS server configured as a DNS server for all the hosts. So I'll see if I'll be able to reach this server from this PC on PC1. I'll see if I can ping Cisco. Give it a second. It should be successful, which means that all of our configuration so far is correct. And it was successful. And I'll try the same on PC2, and the same on PC2. I did a configuration, and the DNS server is this guy here. So let's see if we can ping this server, data center. Ping www.datacenter.com. And it was successful. And when you reach this point, when you download the packet tracer files and the walkthrough, just try all the PCs, all the hosts to reach this server. And also, I will, from this PC, I'll see if I can use the web browser to reach the Cisco server, www.cisco.com, and it's successful. And let me see if we can reach the data center, and the same. When you, as I said, when you reach this point on your configuration, just run the same, either ping by IP address from the command prompt or use the web browser to reach these two web servers. Next, I will do configuration for the access control list. Here, I will configure two access control lists on router data center as follows. First, I will restrict access to the VTY line on the router. I will create a numbered standard access control list. I'll use number 10, for example, and I will allow only hosts on VLAN 60 to access the VTY lines on the router, but no other internal and internet host should be able to access the VTY line on router 1. And I will do this configuration just with one statement as a solution. And secondly, I will restrict access to the internal web server. This server here, I will create a named standard access control list. I will name it INT-web, or it stands for internal web, all caps. I will allow only hosts on the VLAN 40 and VLAN 60 to reach the internal administrative web server at www.datacenter.com, and no other internal and internet host should be able to access the internal administrative web server. And I will do all of this configuration. The solution should consist of two access control list statements. So now we will go on the data center router. Access list, as I said, I'll give it number 10. And I will permit only, as I said, hosts from VLAN 60 of 172.16.60.0 with the inverse subnet mask of this. Enter. We could have used the command to type it like this: access list 10 and deny any, but I'm not going to use this because we want only one statement. Leave it for the implicit deny. Now, on the data center router, I'll create the named access control list, IP access list standard. I will name it INT, and stand for internal web. And here I want to use two statements. I will permit a host from VLAN 40 and 60. So I will permit 172.60.40.0 with the inverse subnet mask of this. This is the first statement. And to permit host on VLAN 60, 16.60.0 with the inverse subnet mask of 000.255. Here we have two statements as solutions for the requirements, and we will use the implicit deny any. Next, I will apply the access list to the VTY lines on our router here, the data center router. So from the global configuration, I'll exit from here. Line VTY from 0 to 15. Enter. Access class 10 on the router. Access the class in any command in the inbound. Enter. Next, I will need to apply the named access list on the router interface, and it is better to apply the access control list close to the destination, which is the internal web server on the subinterface of VLAN 250. So in the global configuration, I'll exit from here on the interface of gig 01.250 on the subinterface close to the destination. Enter IP access group. We named it internal, dash web, and the outbound. Enter. Now, after we are done with the configuration, let us verify connectivity. The hosts in VLAN 20, 40, and 60 can ping each other. So let's see. Here we have PC1. This is in VLAN 20. PC1 in VLAN 20 to ping PC5 here in VLAN 40. Type ping 172.16.40.11 should be successful, and it is. And also PC1 is in VLAN 20 to ping PC6, and PC6 here we have it in VLAN 60. 60.11, it should be successful. And also, please, when you reach this point in the configuration, after you download the files, the walkthrough, just try from all PCs to ping each other, see if it's successful. Now, we have hosts in VLAN 20, 40, and 60 can visit the external web server, which is this in the internet. So on PC1, which is in VLAN 20, the web browser, let's see if we can visit www.cisco.com, and it is successful. PC2, which is in VLAN 40 on the web browser, let's see. And it is successful. And try the same with the PC3 in VLAN 60 and PC5 in VLAN 40. Do this and just test this if it's successful, which means your work so far in the configuration is correct. Next, the way how we configured our access control list, hosts in VLAN 40 and VLAN 60 can visit the administrative web server here, but not in VLAN 20. So let's go on PC2, which is in VLAN 40. Let's see. Data enter.com, which is successful. And we have PC6, which is in VLAN 60, also can desktop can reach this server, web server www.datacenter.com, and yes, surely it can, because this is how we configure the access control list. But PC1 in VLAN 20 and PC4 in VLAN 20 should not be able to reach this web server. So let's try PC4. Desktop. This should fail. Datacenter.com. and it requests timeout, which means our configuration is correct. Now, hosts in VLAN 60 can telnet into router 1. Only hosts in VLAN 60 can telnet into this router. We have two hosts, PC3 and PC6 in VLAN 60. So let's go to PC3 and desktop and see if we can telnet to the server. Telnet to 172.16.60.254. Password of Cisco. Enable Cisco. Sure we can. But if we try to telnet from the host in VLAN 40 or 20 or 40, it should fail. So let's try PC4, and this is in VLAN 20. Try to telnet to 172.16.40.254, and connection refused by remote host. So our configuration is correct. Thank you so much for watching. Just at the end, in the description of this video, just download the packet tracer source files and the walkthrough, and just hopefully you will learn something from this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon in my next video. Have a nice day.